lot of things. Probably one of the most enjoyable is really acknowledging and recognizing the people that come together in times like we had yesterday, weather event that really caused some serious concerns for our community. And we were just delighted by the response that we had, first and foremost by our own staff, our administration, our public service, fire department, police department, and all of those involved with Manitou Springs really rose to the occasion yesterday to keep our community safe and, of course, start the recovery process. We are also delighted that we had help from El Paso County, from Colorado Springs, from the Red Cross. I believe there were some other fire departments that had responded here as well. So first and foremost, we are very grateful for those that came to our aid yesterday and continue to support our community. We're also thankful to our business community. They're out there with their shovels, digging things out, getting back to business, serving people yesterday during the rain, taking people under shelter. And it was really heartwarming to see that. And then, of course, our residents that came down with their shovels and their raincoats to help others in need. So I'm just really proud that we live in a community that comes together in time of need, supports each other, and most importantly, we'll get back to business. We are open for business in Manitou Springs. The shops are open, our attractions are open. We certainly welcome people to come and enjoy our community. So thank you. I'll turn it back over to Reverend Hunting.
I'm going to introduce our Chief of Police, Joe Ribeiro, who
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Joe Ribeiro. I'm your police chief in Manitou Springs. The last name spelling R-I-B like boy, E-I-R-O. Just want to take a minute and walk you through the evolution yesterday. As the day started to evolve in the weather world, we got some calls from our friends at the National Weather Service and our partners in emergency management, making us aware that we had a significant storm developing. It was, in their words, like one they've never seen before. And as the evidence has bared out, it is an incident that was like no others. It was one of our worst storms ever, and Shelley, our Public Works Director, may give us a little more information on that. The Weather Service kind of put us on watch, and I started watching the weather about noon yesterday with a forecast of a storm to hit us somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock. Things started to get a little heated around 3:30. I got a call from our fire chief, who was in touch with some spotters and our partners in public safety up on Ute Pass, Woodland Park, and they were seeing flash flooding occurring in Woodland Park. So at 4:06 yesterday afternoon, we launched the emergency sirens here in Manitou Springs, and for all intents and purposes, we can say that's really what started the incident here. It was about a half an hour before that we received some tornado warnings. So tornado warnings, fortunate for us there wasn't an actual tornado, but I think one of the things it did was it caused some people to take shelter and leave town, so that made our jobs a little bit easier. We set upon the efforts to get people away from the creek. We also launched the emergency notification system that's often referred to by a product name or brand name that we don't actually have. Our system is called Everbridge, the emergency notification system. Others may refer to that as reverse 911. We launched that as well. So there were several notification methods that go out. That's often referred to or analogized as an evacuation. It's very different than what we experience in a wildfire evacuation, where we make deliberate, almost door-to-door notifications if we can possibly do that. With this sort of system, it's a run-for-your-life scenario when those sirens are going off. That's our last attempt to try to get people away from the creek. And so we did that. Shortly after that, the Red Cross opened their shelter at the Congregational Church. That's a storm shelter. It's not really designed to be an overnight or an evacuation center. It's just designed to get people out of the weather until the emergency passes. I think we had 5 people in there last night, and the Red Cross ended up putting one family in overnight because their home was not in a position to return to. Last night, the creek levels rose to a very dangerous level. Fortunately, water came out of the banks of the creeks in several locations. The one place where it ran over was not along Fountain Creek, affected by the burn scar. It was actually along Ruxton and Ruxton Creek. That's one of the YouTube videos that made it out, or Facebook, where the water came down Capitol Hill and across the bridge in front of the Miramont Castle. Ruxton Creek pretty much functioned as the creek and brought that water down onto Manitou Avenue and then ultimately into Fountain Creek. I'm most pleased to say that we are not aware of any casualties. I'm happy to say no casualties were recorded from yesterday, so nobody missing. Started our efforts, so that started right away last night. Public Works, Public Services had a very long day yesterday. Shelley's going to tell you a little bit more about that. My role today has been to support Shelley and her team in their efforts to get this cleaned up. And what I want to leave you with is just a message about be ready for the next one. Weather's called for this afternoon. I'm not seeing it yet as a big one, but yesterday came on us pretty quickly as well. So these storms, especially this time of year, pop up really, really quickly. So, you know, use the ready, set, go. Be weather aware. When warnings are issued, text messages come out on cell phones. Pay attention to that. Get away from the water. It seems very exciting, and believe it or not, we get people that go to the creek when this is happening, and it rises very, very quickly. I'm sure you saw the Woodland Park videos yesterday. There were, at times, 3 and 4 foot jumps in the height of the water, so that can sweep you off the bank or off the bridge very quickly. So heed those warnings when they go out. Be ready, be always aware. Don't start your hike late in the afternoon on a day where there's a rain forecast. You could end up, like some folks did yesterday, stranded on Bar Trail and not able to get to you. So, thank you, Dave.
Hi, my name is Shelley KOAA. I'm the Public Services Director for the City of Manitou Springs. My last name is spelled C-O-B as in boy, A-U. First of all, I'd like to express gratitude to El Paso County and to the City of Colorado Springs for the assistance that they provided my staff and myself during this event. We're largely dealing with debris cleanup and sediment deposition on roadways. We have crews out. We have approximately 60 people out on your roads, cleaning inlets, removing sediment accumulation. All roads are open and passable in Manitou Springs. We have no facilities that have been damaged. We do have our water treatment plant currently shut down due to turbidity, but we will have that back online by the end of the day. You guys all know, and everybody's heard about Manitou Springs and our propensity and our being prone to flooding. We've been addressing this flood-prone state that we live in for many years. So we had a presidentially declared disaster in 2013, a presidentially declared disaster in 2015, and as a result of those disaster declarations, we received a great deal of community block grant disaster relief funding, $13 million. We have implemented the majority of those flood recovery projects, and they have served us very well. We have debris nets that function as designed in Williams Creek. We have Wildcat Gulch, no damage, in an area where we used to lose the road, which cut off 185 residents of El Paso County. They're able to get in and out of their residence today, so we're very proud of that. We have water getting to Manitou Springs. We have no disruption of infrastructure, no broken pipes, either water or sewer. People are able to turn on their taps and get clean water. We're very proud of that. We have staff that have been here ceaselessly since the beginning of this event yesterday afternoon. We have a small staff here in Manitou Springs. In fact, we have a 2-person street crew. So you can imagine how much we need some help when we have an incident like this. We have 80 acres of parks that are managed by a team of 3 and seasonal workers, 4 of them. We had a couple parks that took some pretty good hits. We'll get those parks back up and ready for public use as fast as we can, but they are in the floodplain, so it's to be expected that they're going to suffer some damage when we get an event like this. I did talk to our drainage engineer and asked him to tell me what that is recorded on a gauge here in Manitou Springs. Probably more accurate to call it a 500-year event because the 500-year value of a storm occurring in 30 minutes of 2.41 inches is that 500-year recurrence interval event storm. Our neighbors that are working on the Manitou Avenue Beautification Project, the WAP we call it, the West Avenue Action Plan, their engineer concurs it was a 500-year storm event. I just got off the phone with them. So with that, thank you. Thank you for your interest in Manitou Springs.
Thank you, Shelley. Just might add one other thought. Yesterday when the storm moved in, Manitou Springs Fire moved all of our equipment up to Manitou Springs Middle School. We're not able to have the incident command center down here since we are in a floodplain, so we did move to higher ground so we could manage the operation from a safe place. Might also mention as well that we've had a number of volunteers come into our community today just to say how can we help. So we've gotten them some shovels and some proper protective equipment, and they've been up shoveling dirt and debris out of the streets as well. So we'll take a few questions from all of you if you'd like to at this point.
If you don't mind, could you talk a little bit more, probably you, Shelley, the mitigation efforts that have happened in the past that really prevented this flood from being as bad as we've seen before?
After the Waldo Canyon fire, we knew we had to address a substantial amount of floatable debris. So in 2013 to, I think the channel was completed in 2015, the city built a $6.1 million concrete channel that has 3 debris nets and a sediment basin. The upper debris net, which is just below the historic entrance to the Cave of the Winds, is completely full. We have probably 100 tons of debris behind that net. It functioned as designed. County crews are up cleaning it out for us right now, getting us ready for the next event. So we have that channel. We have some slope stabilization work that was done on the Washington bypass, where that slope was seeping and failed in 2015. So that slope was stable in this event, which kept a lot of detritus and debris from entering the system and coming down and entering El Paso, where we've had sediment accumulation 3-4 feet deep in past storms. Now we can clear it with a skid steer instead of with a front end loader or larger equipment.
Is there any worry that some of this infrastructure won't be able to be cleaned out before more rain comes?
Sure, there's that worry. That's a viable worry, but we have crews on it. We have everything very passable. We have everything cleaned out other than those debris nets, and that's going to take us some time to get the debris nets cleared out.
How did the flood barriers work on Canyon Avenue?
So with some community development block grant funding, there was a project that installed flood walls and passive floodgates, and those passive floodgates did not come up. There is film that shows them coming up partially. They did function as designed, however. The road is graded so that it forces the flow onto the other side of the street, so it's at a slope. So the water's forced on the opposite side of the street from the floodgate, so that the majority of debris and flood water will go on the other side of the street. We are looking into checking the functionality of one of the gates because it's evident that debris came across one of them. So we'll have crews out and we'll have the manufacturer check those gates. They are still under warranty, so if they're not working, we will get them fixed, and that's going to happen very quickly.
So I thought I'd heard that one of them had popped up. Was it that it just came up partially?
It just came up partially. That's correct.
Okay. And was there one or multiple that came up partially?
I'll let the chief speak to that. I believe we have footage of the one main at Canyon coming up.
Sure. Thank you.
The information I was provided is that they all moved. And so what we're trying to sort out as to whether they worked properly or not is how high are they supposed to move and when. Part of what came over the wall is the floatable debris, and I'm not aware whether that, a little bit is supposed to come over while it's holding back the majority, so we just need to sort those sort of things out with the engineers. And I want to add to the other points about the Canyon Avenue or the Williams Canyon mitigation that was done. That's built in multiple stages. And what Shelley was talking about, the upper debris net is full and has a significant amount of debris behind it. The others are catching debris as well. So it's designed to hold multiple events or multiple stages of events. So just because one area is full doesn't mean the whole system is compromised. We've got room for more catches below. We just don't want to rely on that. We want to get it cleaned out as quickly as we can, and there's a significant effort to do that.
Where can people get sandbags if they need them?
The Public Services Facility at 101 Banks Place, we have sandbags outside our gate, and we will have more sandbags, 2 pallets by day's end today, if people want to come. There's a pallet currently up there available.
You said all the roads are open again? The one up above Piermont Castle that goes to the right, I can't think of the name of it. That one was closed like a few hours ago when I was there. Is that one reopened?
That was closed for cleaning, and it's open.
Okay.
So across the city, all roads have been reopened.
That's correct. Manitou Avenue is closed, but it's my understanding that that's now open to 1 lane, and that was a closure that was affected by the construction project on Adams Crossing Bridge.
So there are roads passable.
It's passable. Back open to 1 lane.
Thank you.
In fact, one of our first priorities after making life safety the highest priority is to get the roads open and passable to emergency vehicles, and our public works crew, public services crew was able to accomplish that last night after a very late night. So what you're seeing today in the open and closing is just the safety moves so that the crews can get in there and clean, but it's still always passable for emergency vehicles.
I'll step in for a minute. I'm Malcolm Fleming. I'm the interim city administrator. My name is spelled M-A-L-C-O-L-M, Fleming, F-L-E-M-I-N-G. I'll put in a plug for preparation. One of the things we talked about is the infrastructure that has taken years to implement here. 3 weeks ago, at the chief's request, we did what we call a tabletop exercise, where we went through a scenario role play that involved a hail and rain event. 3 weeks ago. Maybe you're seeing the future or something like that, but and I was very event, and it got everybody thinking about how they respond, what information they need, how we get information out that people can stay safe in an event, and how we can clean up quickly to get businesses and everything back to normal. And it's that kind of preparation and advance work that this very small team, as Shelley pointed out, I think they're doing a fantastic job with limited resources and responding very quickly and effectively.
There's one more thing I wanted to ask about. When I was talking to you earlier, Chief, we were talking about there are 3 things aside, or 2 other things aside from the mitigation efforts that have really helped the storm not be as bad as we've seen in the past. You mentioned hail and then growth of vegetation as well?
So yeah, the easy one to talk about is the revegetation on the burn scar itself. So that's one of the things that it's an effort that was undertaken right away after the fire. As a matter of fact, it started right just after. It was the BAER project, I think it's B-A-E-R, where reseeding and replanting of trees was occurring on the burn scar just after it happened. So that growth over the last 5 years, or 6 years now, has helped slow down the water coming down. The mitigation, we've already talked about that. That was the other. And my personal observation, I probably should vet this with some scientists, but the amount of hail that we experienced yesterday was probably about half of the moisture that came down. That ice doesn't move like water, so it doesn't have the flowing energy that water has. It actually acts more like floatable debris, and it's a little bit easier to slow down, or it just floats off to the side of the creek. So I think that was another significant contributor to the lack of impact that we had. Had all of that been rainfall, our scenario would have been a lot worse, in my observation.
What can people do with the debris they clear from their yards? Are you going to have a mulching day anytime soon?
So we had planned a cleanup event at Hiawatha Gardens this Saturday, which we've canceled, but we have two roll-offs ordered. So I'm going to go ahead and have the roll-offs delivered, and we will allow people to bring their debris to the Hiawatha Gardens parking lot and dispose of their debris at that location. And then we'll do that in exchange for people helping us clean up Hiawatha Gardens maybe the following Saturday, so please come.
And that's this coming Saturday?
That's this coming Saturday at Hiawatha Gardens. We'll have 2 60-yard roll-offs. It'd be better if people didn't bring trash and furniture and things like that. It would be more for woody debris.
Anything else? Just add one other comment. speaks well to this community in Manitou Springs. After the storm passed yesterday, I kind of walked around the neighborhood. Neighbors were out with one another, checking on one another, making sure everybody was okay. Local business people were just terrific. I talked to one business owner on Canyon Avenue who has a restaurant. He invited 30 extra people just off the street to get in out of the rain. He said, you do not have to buy anything. I'll give you some free water. Just made people feel comfortable and home and safe, and that's the kind of community that we have here in Manitou Springs. Anything else?
Any reports of any water rescues or any type of rescues that happened yesterday?
I don't believe we had any water rescues yesterday. As Chief Ribeiro said, there was one call that El Paso County Search and Rescue responded to up on Bar Trail.
Was nobody on the incline yesterday afternoon?
I'm sure there were probably people on the incline. I think I heard some reports that people were seeking shelter underneath trees and large boulders.
So at this time, we don't have any reports of injuries?
No, no injuries at all that we've had reported. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Sure. Yeah, so, the mic won't work. That's it.